Previously on the Rubin Report.
Sip it!
Black women can get IDs.
Finish now, brother.
Please don't breathe on me.
Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken.
Even the sliminess of that. That's Smeagol.
We're getting everything we want.
His hair, by the way, looks like the Golden Dome.
All right, guys, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report, and it's Friday, which means it's time for another roundtable extravaganza. And joining me today are Rubin Report veterans. One, the co-host of the PBD Podcast, and now acclaimed Nazi hunter, Adam Sosnick, as well as the host of the Officer Tatum Show, my friend Brandon Tatum. Gentlemen, how are you?
Blessed.
Feeling great.
This is a very serious show today because, well, Brandon, first off, do we call you retired officer? It's the Officer Tatum Show, but you're not an active police officer. Are you retired in that sense, or what's the term?
Yeah, I'm not a cop anymore. I'll always be a cop in heart, but you know, people just call me Officer Tatum and they never stop. So people know me as Officer Tatum. Sometimes I wonder, do people even know my first name? But I'm fine with that. You call me Brandon, Officer Tatum, I'm cool with either one.
Well, I told people in my production department that, hey, I'm going on with Dave Rubin and Brandon Tatum. My friend goes, it's Officer Tatum. I said, yes, sir.
We have once and always Officer Tatum. And Sosnick, I've now dubbed you Nazi hunter. So let's dive right in because people must be going, what do you mean? He's hunting Nazis. So there's this collection. Let me try to do this properly. And if I muck it up, you guys can clean it up. There's this collection of what I would just say are kind of douchey influencers. It's what the internet is. I don't know what's in their hearts or their minds. I know they love clicks. I know they love fame. They say all of the worst kind of things to get everybody upset, and it works, and it feeds the algorithm. And a bunch of them went to your neck of the woods, Sauce, because you're also the king of South Beach. They went to a club in Miami. This is Andrew Tate and the brother. I can't even remember what his name is. This is this
Tristan.
Loser, Myron Gaines. It's not even his real name. It was the douchey frog guy, Fuentes. It was just the worst collection of losers. Here's a quick little video. All right, so they're very, very edgy. They're playing the Kanye song. You've got Myron Gaines, who's got a shirt on that, you know, basically is a Holocaust denial cookie shirt. He's black. It's not even his real name. Hitler didn't love the blacks. I just want to be clear. I'm actually not outraged by any of this. I think it's all kind of pathetic. Fuentes, everyone says he's gay. None of it makes any sense other than this is what the internet has devolved into. Sauce, you guys had Tate on, which we'll throw to in a second, but how did I do in the setup there? I want you guys to add a little something first, and then we'll go from there.
Well, that's pretty much what happened. You know, your description is a little bit different than mine from some of these individuals. Some of them I consider friends, cool with, some of them not so cool with. The reality is I know every single one of them and every single one of them well, and most of them I've texted with or not returned texts over the last few days. It would be so easy for me to pile on and say they're all Nazis, but there needs to be some nuance here, and I'd gladly unpack it for you.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we'll get to that when we throw to the Tate clip with you because
Sure.
you did a nice job there. But Brandon, jump in.
Yeah, I just think it's, you know, I'm a grown man with kids and responsibilities. I'm married. Like, when I see dudes doing that, I don't really have a lot of respect. If they are trying to position themselves as leaders, especially for young men, it's corny, man. I would never be on a Sprinter van with a bunch of dudes playing music like that going to a nightclub. I mean, I'm a grown man. And especially when a person is claiming to be high value and all that stuff, I just think it's unnecessary. And I don't have a lot of respect for them, but I don't know these guys. So maybe if I met them, I think something different. But watching what they did was just super lame to me, man.
Right. So there is this element of just like, is it troll and just pure influencer goo that they're going for? Is there some seriously racist stuff? There's always, it's always stuff about the Jews. But I think what you said there, Brandon, is right. It's like, it also struck me as like, man, you guys are all single, basically. several of you are either gay or closeted or what the hell's going on there, nobody knows, but you all seem like you're afraid of women one way or another. I know plenty of gay guys that love women, but like you guys, you're all hanging out thinking you're so freaking cool, and it just doesn't read that way. But Sos, let me throw to Tate went on with you guys, I think the day after, so take a look.
But if I'm totally honest with you, I don't think that any of them are deeply anti-Semitic genuinely, and I don't think that any of them really thought it through. Honestly, I think they're just kids. I think they're just kids. It gets a reaction. They think they're funny. They're on the internet. They need a reaction. They want likes, and they did some fucking dumb shit. That's what I think it is. I think they're just literally retarded.
They're not all kids. We know Myron's almost 40.
Yeah.
You're almost 40.
Yep.
Tristan's 35.
Yep.
This ain't kid stuff. I think when you sort of diffuse the situation, they're kids being kids. Myron, who, you know how much time we've spent with Myron.
Yep.
That ain't no kid stuff. The reason you went is because Nick Fuentes, virgin, never been to a club, a virgin and a literal club virgin. You wanted to see him be that, basically like dance monkey in the club, so to speak. And I actually understand that. But when you show up to a club with the Nazi Avengers, Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, Sneako, you're going to get looped into this, and whose head's going to roll first? Well, not some cloud kid nobody's heard of. Andrew Tate. You're the leader.
So, Sos, first off, you did a bang-up job there because everyone knows it's not that fun to confront this nonsense right there when they're on your show and, you know, all that stuff. But I thought it was interesting because he kept saying they, implying that he has nothing to do with this. When he tweets out all this Jew stuff or the Nazi stuff or whatever, that it's not him that's doing it, it's they're retarded. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to unpack here. Andrew Tate is a man. Tristan is a man. Their best friend, Justin Waller, who I'm very good friends with, is a man, a gentleman. Myron's a man. He may be an anti-Semitic man, but he's a man. Sneako at this point is sort of like a Disney kid who's been around the internet for 10 years. He's been around the block that he should know what's going on. But the reality is, Nick Fuentes is a kid.
Wait, it's Sneako? I thought it was Sneaker. He's Sneako?
Either one.
Okay.
Sneako, yeah.
That changes things.
Nick Fuentes is a kid, 25 years old, typically hanging out by himself on the internet. And then there's another kid who, I don't even know, Clavic something, who's a 20-year-old kid. I don't know how a 20-year-old kid's supposed to get in the club, 21 plus. But that kid's very interesting.
He's also telling everyone to do meth so that they can get hollowed out.
That's very interesting. I was very critical of people like Kylie Jenner. You know my whole history with the Kardashians. My best friend was the guy, Chris Humphries, that married Kim Kardashian. I've been around this world, and I met the younger Kardashians when they were teenagers, and I saw her, sort of go down the influencer rabbit hole. The Kylie girl, she's a billionaire now. The lip fillers, the Botox, the boob jobs, the fake stuff. When you're a 20-year-old girl, what I didn't realize, now dudes are doing that. So now dudes are putting in Botox and lip fillers and basically getting fake titties. What are dudes doing? So that's what's happening with this internet culture. So the reality is this. Speaking of men, can I just unpack what I think is going on here?
Sure.
Tate is a leader. And, kids are going to follow leaders. Brandon Tatum said that probably the most important thing, which is the biggest thing for me, is who's leading young men. I look at Brandon Tatum as a leader amongst men. I look at PBD as a leader amongst men. That's the same way I look at Tate. And he can go one way or another with this. The challenge is this. My North Star, and I think both of you agree with this, is what would Charlie Kirk feel about this? Because Charlie's not here anymore, and who's carrying on his legacy and defending what he feels? And to me, Charlie's a man and Nick is a kid. And Charlie is someone that goes outside and debates people, while Nick stays inside and masturbates looking at whatever images of people. So to me, it's completely different. Now we talk about the average man. Tate talked about, well, the average man can't get a girl anymore. The average man can't buy a home anymore. The average man. I said, why should average allow you to do anything amazing? And in my opinion, it's not actually Nick's fault. I mean, he's a generation of kids that grow up on the internet. And my North Star, other than Charlie Kirk, is one question. Have you ever been punched in the face? Because there's a big difference between socializing and social media. And there's a whole generation of kids who've never been punched in the face. And if there's no ramifications of you saying the N-word, and if there's no ramifications of you being Jew hater, what do you think's going to happen? So Charlie Kirk, as some of you talked about him playing basketball, he's outside socializing. He's in real life. There's a generation of kids that have grown up on the internet who have never been punched in the face. Now, I'm not condoning that anyone gets punched in the face, but when you get punched in the face, you stop saying these things. I dare Nick Fuentes to go out in the middle of Chicago and start saying the N-word. His face may be rearranged a little bit. So that's what I'm recommending. Last point. It was just MLK Day. MLK talked about having content of character. All these kids that are doing content forget the most important word, which is the second word, which is character. You can do content all you want, young kids on the internet, but do you have content of character? Many of them don't.
Yeah, you just laid out so many things that I want to pick up on, and it also, you're sort of getting to why I'm not outraged by this. Like these are not great people doing things for the wrong reasons, and it's getting mad money and clicks. But I'm not outraged in the traditional sense of how they're trying to outrage us, because that's what they're going for. But Brandon, I want to ask you something, because Adam mentioned Charlie, and I've thought an awful lot since September 10th of last year about Charlie, and I think you've been on the right side of honoring him, where we've seen a lot of influencers go the other way. Do you think there is a connection to Charlie being gone? Say Jordan Peterson, who's temporarily MIA right now, Dennis Prager, who took a spill and he's coming back a little bit right now. But we've lost some of the all-stars in this space. Thus, we're getting sort of fed a new version of, I would say, much less impressive stars.
Yeah, I think Charlie was kind of like the the plug that held all this back, because now that he's gone, people are now trying to fill that gap and become the next Charlie Kirk. And these men don't have the experience, exposure, maturity, wisdom, and godly mentality to actually do what Charlie did. You know, I think that some people are giving, I forget, Andrew Tate a little bit too much credit. I think to young guys, maybe Andrew Tate is cool, but to people like me, I'm not impressed by Andrew Tate. I'm not impressed how he made his money, and I'm not impressed how he leads young men. He's kind of almost, in my opinion, fear-mongering young men into having this mentality. I mean, there's sometimes he does say things to motivate them, but he's creating this environment where young men are being tricked into thinking that it's cool, and that means you're successful if you got a lot of women and you're very boastful and you're arrogant. And I don't think that should be the case. When you talk about young men can't own a home, well, there's multiple ways in order to generate wealth as a young man. Home ownership isn't the only thing. Really, you should be worried about, can I invest in property that pay me money, and outside of my own residence? So there's ways you can invest in the stock market. You could create your own company. I created multiple companies. Acquiring companies and selling companies is the way I like to make money. But I think that I would like to see these men be actual men and be leaders. And I think they don't have I'll use the word North Star, because I believe in God, and there's principles in the Bible that adequately describe what a man should be and what a man should not be, and also how a man should treat women and how a man should view women. And immature men struggle with this. They view women as the enemy. And one reason, because they don't have self-respect and they don't have self-confidence. And then as the immature young man, you go after women for superficial things, like how good she looks, how well she's dressed. And those things are superficial and create animosity between young men that don't add value enough to get that woman. And, you turn into like a Nick Fuentes, or you're unmarried like Andrew Tate and some of these other young men.
It's interesting because so much of this, I think, also circles around what you mentioned a moment ago, Adam, which is that, the three of us are of a certain age. Adam, I think you and I you're 49 too, or I got a year on you.
I'll kill you right now, sir. 45.
You're 45. Oh, all right. Brandon, how old are you?
I'm 38.
You're a little younger, yeah. But we remember a world pre-internet. And these guys, it seems to me that these guys are all preying on young people who don't remember a pre-internet world. They had virtually no experience or relationship with the pre-internet world. So everything does become about clicks and bling and all the other stuff. I want to connect that to something here because my friend Melissa Chan, who's been on the show many times, put this up. And it says on X, she wrote, when a brand new form of media was in its infancy 7 years ago versus holy cow, what did we do to ourselves? And it's a very famous picture on the left. I happen to be in it, but it's Sam Harris, Joe Rogan, Ben Shapiro, Eric Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, and me at a dinner in LA. And that was at the height of sort of the alt media and the intellectual dark web. And what you have there is a group of people who, Brandon, you mentioned these guys don't have expertise in anything sort of. Like you've got a physicist there, you have a world-renowned psychologist, you have the biggest podcaster in the world, you've got Shapiro who built a media empire. But you had this interesting group of people who disagreed on a million things, but we're all kind of adults and trying to slog through something real. And as she's illustrating, now we've been left with this. So my question to you, Brandon, is what is it about the conservative movement now that you have so many people interested in influencers who are not conservative at all? None of those guys in their behaviors are conservative.
Yeah, I think what's happening is that the older generation is struggling to connect with the younger generation, and therefore there's a gap. And these individuals that we see on the screen that is causing a lot of ruckus, they're filling the gap because the young people see them as being cool and they're speaking to their fears. A lot of young people are fearful of what the dating aspect looks like today, especially for young men. They're not confident. So they don't know how to, they're on the internet trying to talk to women instead of meeting women in person. So there's this gap. And the people that are filling the void are the Andrew Tates and the Nick Fuenteses of the world. And that is inherently problematic. You know, it's kind of hard for a man that's not married to tell other men what it's like to be married or how to get married. I'm not saying you can't add value at all, but I'm saying it's kind of hard. If a man has never built wealth, I don't really want to listen to them about how to build wealth. I'd rather listen to somebody who's wealthy and who's done it. Not saying that I can't hear anything from them, but I'd rather listen to a person that has already done it. And these, like for instance, and I think we're sugarcoating it just, not we, but I think the society is sugarcoating a little bit. Myron is an anti-Semite. He that guy, yeah. And even if he's not and he's putting on that he is, that's even crazier. I saw him the other day just flat out say he hates Jews and that Jewish people suck and all this old crazy rhetoric. And
no, I mean, the shirt is literally Jews in the oven. I mean, that's
right,
what the shirt
he's making
wearing.
fun
so I don't
of.
mean to, by the way, I don't mean to dismiss it in any way. You're totally right. I don't mean to dismiss a version of that. I just think generally for say the three of us to have a conversation about it, like getting hung up on that is exactly what they want us to get hung up on.
Yeah. We don't have to get hung up on it, but I think the realistic perspective is that a man is immature if that's the way that they're thinking. You go look at the religious perspective of all of these guys. What do they actually believe? You know, I think Myron is a Muslim, which I don't even think the Muslims that I know have a little more decorum and more respectable, and they respect their religion and they respect people and they present themselves a little more, I guess mature. The stuff he's doing is crazy. What's his
real name? We don't even have to call him Myron because it's a stage name.
I don't even know his real name.
Fadodal or something.
Yeah, but there's a reason why he's trying to cover that up, in my personal opinion. And then you look at Nick Fuentes, say he's a Catholic. I don't know a single Catholic that goes online and curses and uses that type of language and vulgar behavior than somebody like him. So a lot of these guys are even confused in their own convictions. And I wish that there would be more men that stand up. And I got to give credit to PBD because I saw a little clip of PBD kind of chastising Andrew Tate about his involvement in that whole thing in the first place. Because he had asked Andrew Tate, he said, would you invite me to that? Andrew Tate said no. And that's the same thing how I feel like men of valor and respect, I would never even call them about certain things that I know that they would never be involved in. And to me, PBD is an example of what a real mature man looks like. He don't have to be all flashy. He has a wife. He has children. He's mature in his conversations. He's not overly emotional about things. And people like him and others like that are the men that I look up to. I don't look up to somebody because they got money and they drive a Bugatti. Like that's materialistic things that have a means to an end. I look up to men that have a family and they understand the value of being a father and the value of changing the generation in a mature way and actually having a faith that they can realistically, I guess back up their argument with, and not these guys who are clickbaity and want to be cool. Andrew Tate can't get away with saying, well, I walked out of the Sprinter van when they start playing the music. You shouldn't be in the Sprinter van. My wife would be ashamed of me if I went to a nightclub and getting bottle service. I'm a Christian man. Like, I have standards that I live by. And I'm not trying to judge anybody on the things that they want to do, but don't project to be this. And then you caught out with these weirdos in a Sprinter van singing the most ridiculous song that I've ever heard.
Adam, let me ask you one other thing on this, which is there was an interesting moment where Tate basically was like, you know what? These guys don't really hate Jews. It's just that, we sort of showed this a little bit of it before, but there was an extended version. It's just that, things aren't great, basically, so they're going to hate Jews. And I thought, there might actually be a grain of truth in that when things go bad in a society, you look for a scapegoat, and Jews generally are the scapegoat. So there's a grain of truth in that. But you would think, again, he might then say, okay, let me look in the mirror. Am I helping or hurting now? Mm-hmm. And maybe you will be a gateway to getting this guy to come around a little bit, because his implication was, and it's not really the Jews. He's going, oh, they're just the scapegoat, and I'm in on the scapegoating.
So you're talking to somebody it's very hard to put me in a box, because I work with PBD. I'm side by side him every day, the best leader I've ever been around. But I'm born and raised in the Miami nightlife scene. I'm friends with all these anti-Semitic influencers, or was, but I'm proud Jew. And I'm very much into Judaism and my faith. I was married. I'm now single. I'm now back in the market. I have a girlfriend. So it's very hard to say. I'm getting it from both sides, like, how you're a Jew, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. And then it's from the Jews. How can you hang out with these people? The reality is, I agree with, what's the famous Ronald Reagan quote? Someone you agree with 80% of the time is a friend and ally, not a 20% enemy. So for the most part, I get along with people. I don't have a car. I haven't driven a car in 15 years. I don't do the bling bling thing. How many guys that are multimillionaires in Miami aren't bling blinging driving a Bugatti? This guy. So I collect friends. I'm still friends with my friends from elementary school, middle school, high school, college, football, basketball court. Me and Brandon used to play basketball all the time. He was the best. So I have friends, and I can find the good in people even if they suck. Even Nick Fuentes, I'm like, come on, buddy, let me teach you how to shoot a basketball. Come on, Myron, even though you're a raging anti-Semite, I do agree with some of the stuff you do in the red pill content. Come on, Tate, we are homies, but I'm not necessarily condoning some of the things you say or do. So I'm not that dude that's saying, what? I hate you now. That's just not me. So as far as these guys go, it's number one, it's hard to put me in a box because I'll be in the club just as much as these guys will be in the club. I won't be playing that song. Let me tell you something. I talked about getting punched in the face. That could be verbally. That could be obviously physically. That can be emotionally. Let me tell you a story. And this is what changed basically my perspective on how to deal with people, even when you're enraged. When I'm 13 years old, for my bar mitzvah, I get a bike. This is my bike. This is my car. This is the favorite thing I ever had in my life. Because why? I have freedom now. And I have the bike parked in front of my house, and these guys come and steal my bike, and they're driving it away, and all of a sudden, it's actually a black guy that stole the bike, and this Latino guy shows up with his kid, because they live down the neighborhood, I knew the kid. He goes, come on, get in the car, we're going to go get the bike. I'm like, okay. I get in the car. We drive down the street, and we see the guys trying to stuff the bike into a car. He starts honking the horn. Boop, 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 boop. The guys freak out. They run. I get my bike back. This is my bike. It's my bar mitzvah present. I'm so excited. And he goes, come on, drive your bike home, and I'm going to follow you home. We get to the house. I'm freaking out. I'm 13, dealing with a, essential assault, or whatever kind of robbery this is. And I come running in the house, and I have a very contentious relationship with my dad. They stole my bike. They stole my bike. He's like, who? And I go, these N-words. And my dad looks at me and slaps me across the face. And dude, my face is numb for a week. He goes, we don't use that word in this house. I'm shaking like crazy. He goes, I can buy you a new bike, but I can't buy you class and I can't buy you respect. Never use that word. I've never used that word again in my life. It was the first and last time I've ever used that word. So my question is this. Who's Nick Fuentes' dad? Who's letting your son talk like this on the internet? Who are these kids' parents? Who's not saying, dude, you're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing the family, you're embarrassing every single member of our family because you want to rage bait on the internet? No. And to me, that's what it comes down to. Have you been punched in the face? Either literally, physically, emotionally? Has someone G-checked you and said, we don't play that game here? So the last point is this. This is why Miami is so important. We see what's going on in New York with this Mamdani situation. We see what's going on in LA and California with Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. We see this. We see all these billions of wealth saying, we're out of here. And they're all going where? To Miami. So, I helped Stephen Minor kind of get elected the mayor of Miami Beach because I sent out a tweet in his behalf. He ended up winning by 300 votes. Thank you for your support. And the whole culmination of that is you're not going to Mamdani our Miami. Miami is a melting pot. I grew up, especially on the basketball court, me, Jewish guys, black guys, Haitians, Jamaicans, Venezuelans, Cubans. Half my friends are Cubans. So we don't stand for racism, anti-Semitism, socialism, communism, wokeism. What did Governor Ron DeSantis have to say? Florida is where woke goes to die. Well, let me add to that. Miami, specifically Miami Beach, is where blatant racism goes to die. So we're not playing that game in Miami because this is ultimately the last bastion of just normalcy in America today. You talk about sane views in an insane world, right? This is what it comes down to. That's why Miami said, no. 24 hours later, they're all excommunicated from ever coming to a club again in Miami because we're just not playing this racist game.
I think that was Adam Sosnick's opus. We might have to. I would in another world. I would end the show right there. That was beautiful, my friend. That's that's what it's all about. And I think to put a pin in that whole topic, Brandon, I know you just said before we started recording that you're not the best basketball player. Sas and I still have some skills, and I think the three of us should take on Tate, who's the little frog guy, Fuentes, and give me one more of them, and Amular Fadoodle. We could take them on in 3-on-3 to decide.
They would say in the basketball court, they would not stand a chance.
I'll take some football in that. Let's play
go.
some tackle.
Yeah, right.
Well, listen, I played college football,
yeah.
Tatum.
Yeah,
so we can do whatever we want to do. Let's do this.
Let's do that.
I'm not mucking this up for football. All right, let's picture this. It's late at night. You're scrolling your phone and suddenly you find the product. You add it to your cart, head to checkout, and realize you don't remember your password. Your wallet isn't nearby and you're about to give up. Then you see it, that purple Shop Pay button. One tap, no digging for cards, no forgotten logins, and you're done. In a chaotic world of online shopping, it's one of the easiest wins out there. And that ease is powered by Shopify, the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses worldwide and over 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from major brands to entrepreneurs just getting started. Shopify makes it simple to launch your store with hundreds of ready-to-use templates that match your brand style. It helps you work faster with built-in AI tools that write product descriptions, headlines, and even enhance product photos. And when it's time to grow, Shopify helps you find customers with easy-to-run email and social campaigns. Best of all, everything's backed by Shopify's award-winning 24/7 support whenever you need it. See less carts go abandoned and more sales go cha-ching with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Rubin. Go to shopify.com/Rubin. That's shopify.com/Rubin. Okay, let's jump over to a couple pieces of international news, and then we will leave you good people for the weekend. Let's talk about Greenland for a little bit, because it is going down. As I said weeks ago, if Trump wants it, it's going to happen one way or another. No one's going to get shot. We're not bombing anyone. Canada's not going to stop us, and here we are. Go.
Well, I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the the Golden Dome, and the Golden Dome is going to be something that's going to be very amazing. It'll be Israel times probably 100. And we need it. I think we need it. And it's all going to be made in the United States. We have the best weapons in the world. We have the best companies in the world. We want them to produce faster. And, we've put a mandate out. You're going to have to produce faster, whether it's the Patriots or the Tomahawks or the F-35s or anything else. We make the best equipment, but they have to make it a lot faster.
So, Brandon, as we're recording this, we're finding out a little more information about what the deal structure is going to look like. But it was just fairly obvious to me from the beginning. Trump said we're going to do it. Denmark, yes, they planted a flag there a long time ago after the war, but they've basically done nothing there. It's a massive landmass, 57,000 people who might like the protections of the United States. And even Mark Carney in Canada, who's pretending that he can stop Trump, he will be happy when there is a missile defense from, say, Russia or some other bad countries a globe away that he can't do anything about. So this seems all good to me. Do you see any downside on this?
No. I love the posturing, too. I love that America is strong. I love what we're saying on a national scale. And we got to quit playing games and acting like these people really are in competition with us. Denmark can't do nothing about it. Trump is trying to be nice. He's trying to give people money. Or if they don't want the money, he's trying to do it diplomatically. They're not going to stop us. Canada can't do anything anyway. I don't know why their leader is even opening his mouth. These people are nowhere near the capabilities of the United States of America. The only reason they exist and they haven't been taken over is because of the United States of America. I said this yesterday on my show, and I'm not trying to be, hyperbolic, but I got friends in Canada that I love. All my friends in Canada want to be Americans. But, right. if we wanted to take over Canada, and they don't realize, we don't even need our military. People in Idaho and people in Montana, they don't even have guns. Yeah. Like our regular citizens can go to Canada and take it over, to be quite honest. So they don't really want to play this game. And I'm glad that Donald Trump is the adult in the room, because we need to stop lying to ourselves. This is for national security. Everything that I've read about Greenland and the strategic positioning for America in Greenland, it's all good and it's all pro-American. And if people have a problem with it, then tough luck. Trump is going to do what he's going to do, and that's exactly what I voted for.
And by the way, I'll have my guys lay in a map, and then you can really see why, if you were worried, say, about Russia particularly, but China as well, that Greenland and the Arctic is going to be the at least the buffer of the next battlefield. Adam, part of my thing with this is that I think a certain set of people who would otherwise be all for this, they just think America can't do anything good anymore. Oh, yeah. They just think, we've done all these things, these screwy things in the past, and they're all hung up on Iraq usually. And I'm not defending the Iraq war, or I'm not defending Afghanistan war or anything else. But that was not Trump. And Trump does do things right and differently. And to me, so it's almost like a lack of imagination is what I think.
So look, name one person in America today that you trust more than Trump. It's always interesting because everything is binary. So you start to see polling about Trump. Well, I don't like what Trump's doing, and I don't approve of this, and I'm not a fan of it. It's like, okay, who do you trust more, Trump or Kamala? Oh, yeah, for sure, Trump. Who do you trust more, Trump or Joe Biden? Joe Biden, is he still alive? Who do you trust more, Trump or fill in the blank? They always pick Trump. So it's so easy to crap on Trump if there's no Trump or blank. We have elections for a reason, and he won this mandate for a reason. By the way, speaking of Greenland, what's the biggest city in Greenland? Nobody knows. Who's the number one musical artist from Greenland? Who knows? Who cares?
Green Day.
Who's the famous actor? Nobody knows one thing about Greenland. Not one. I don't know. Greenland isn't even green. Apparently, it's full of ice. And it's not
as big. It's not as big as people think it is.
I had no clue. That's what she said. But listen, nobody knows a thing about Greenland. But the problem with the internet, and the problem with everyone having opinions, you know how that goes. Everyone has opinions, and they all of a sudden, I don't think we should do something about Greenland. When's the last time you woke up and thought about Greenland? When's the last time you woke up and thought about Green Day? Shout out to them.
The only difference is there are people in Russia and China who do think about it. Maybe not the average Russian and Chinese, but the leaders do, and we know, and it's exactly why we did the
Venezuela. So let's let the experts who have focused on Greenland take the lead here, rather than being like, I don't think we should do anything about Greenland. You don't know, user 574 on YouTube, anything about Greenland.
Well, they just want to hate Donald Trump. Like they have this lens where anything that he does is bad. And then you have the people on the right side that they just hate him because he has a partnership with Israel, all the anti-Semitic nut jobs. And so they're going to hate everything he does anyway, because I think people think that Netanyahu has something to do with Greenland. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's like some people just they live their life with this lens that they see everything that Trump do is negative. Trump hasn't gotten us in any wars. I don't know why we're still talking about Afghanistan and Iraq. I understand the implication of us not trusting the government, but that's not the same government. That's almost like having a woman in your life and you still blaming her for something another woman did. You're in a new relationship. This woman has proven herself, and in this case, Donald Trump has proven himself to know what he's doing. We went to Venezuela and cleaned house. I mean, if any of those reports are true, our military is so sophisticated, nobody want to F with us. And I don't know why we can't boast in that as a country and be proud of that. That little wussy from Canada, it's just when he was on stage in Davos and he was talking like that, it almost made me want to get gangster with these people. Like, don't disrespect the United States of America like that. You should be on your knees begging Donald Trump for support, because if we don't get Greenland, Russia or China will get Greenland. Yeah, and then you guys will be crying at the end of the day because nobody's going to protect you but the United States of America. And
no, actually, it makes it much messier. Right. It makes it much messier, because then what happens is once Russia and China are there and they're making a move on Canada, then we have to get involved, and they're much closer to the borders. Also, Carney, when he was like, yeah, Russia's a threat, but we've got the boats. Okay, but let's jump to something else that happened at Davos, which is that Trump and then Kushner really released the full set of plans on this. They have released the Board of Peace Gaza plans. Guys, my basic take on this, look, there you can see the different zones there, and that it's going to take a couple of years, and that, you know, they're bringing in all of these major people who have built these futuristic cities in the Middle East, and we'll see what happens in New Rafah. And it's on the Mediterranean, the same coast that Tel Aviv is on, which is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and the Gazans could have done this 20 years ago. All of that being said, I think there's a chance. I don't know how you eliminate the hatred in the hearts of the people that are there, but maybe with some decades of economic success, maybe they're suddenly like, you know what? I'll stop trying to kill the Jews over there because I have something valuable over here. They could have had it 20 years ago, but there's no point in crying over spilled milk. Sosnick, you think there's a chance?
I don't know. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen here, because if you go out and ask people in Gaza or in the West Bank who they would vote for today, they would still vote for Hamas. What are we doing? That's the equivalent to my American friends out there, that we have an election after the Civil War and they still in the South vote for the KKK. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doubling down? Why are we asking for any of their permission for the people of Gaza? You lost the war. So so for me, this all comes down to Trump. Trump's going to maneuver how he's going to maneuver. You ever watch the movie Ali with Will Smith? And he walks in, he goes, the champ is here. The champ is here. That's Trump, bro. The boss is here. Trump's going to dictate whatever he wants to do, and he'll throw out something wild and bombastic and something you never thought we could be done. And then he waits and see what people say in the room, and people are like, what? And then he just kind of filters it down from there. I trust Jared Kushner. I trust Steve Witkoff. I trust American leadership in that side of the world. By the way, MBS, I trust what he's basically sort of coming around a little bit. I trust Bibi Netanyahu, who's been elected democratically more than any other leader in the world today, possibly ever. And we don't know what's going to happen here. So Trump is the most important leader of the world, quote unquote, from Larry Fink of BlackRock, and I trust his judgment.
Yeah.
Brennan, what do you think about the idea that maybe, okay, if you can't solve ancient hatreds overnight, that at least through economics, where then suddenly if they see, boy, we've got hotels here, we've got better restaurants, we have tourism, that suddenly they will go, oh, we better stop lobbing rockets and trying to break the border down because we have a lot more to lose. At least there's sort of like a clean line of thinking there.
Yeah, they're not going to change. This is indoctrinated into their spirit. I mean, this is a religious battle that's been going on for thousands of years, and it's also have a spiritual component to it. I think that the people that come against Israel, God has a position on that, and I think these people are given over to a reprobate mind. They cannot see the truth. They cannot see peace. They're going to always be like this. Now, what's going to happen is that we're going to have to do it through blunt force and restrictions. And that's the only path forward. And I'll say this, when I look at what Donald Trump is proposing, it's kind of like distasteful a little bit to the general public, right? But for me, I'm like, what's the alternative? Why wouldn't we take advantage of that situation and build a utopia for people who really want access to wealth and an economy and that beautiful Mediterranean Sea? When I went to Israel, I could, you got to think, I never traveled out of Fort Worth, Texas in Stop 6 before. So when I finally went to Israel, I thought Israel was a third world country. That's how not involved I am with any place outside of the United States of America. When I went to Israel, I said, this is one of the most beautiful places I've been. The Mediterranean Sea is absolutely stunning. And that's me flying in. We stayed in Netanya, which is north of Tel Aviv. And so I didn't go to Tel Aviv. I just went to the religious sites. I went to the Sea of Galilee, and I'm like, this place is absolutely beautiful. And then you think about what they've done in Gaza. They had access to all of this. They could have, instead of that ideological foolery of electing Hamas and letting them just spend all the money and resources to commit a terrorist attack against Israel, they should have been partnering with Israel. They should have been partnering with the United States of America. They would have had a utopia with an economy that's better than many places in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. But instead, they chose hate, and they will forever choose hate. What we're going to have to do is partner with Israel and take over that land and make it into something better. And we're going to have to guard against them lobbing missiles because they're going to forever do it. These people are lost. And if you think that the children that are growing up after the Gaza war are going to somehow love Israelis, they're going to somehow love Jews, you got to be out of your mind. I mean, to them, they're seeing their loved ones under buildings. They're seeing their loved ones getting killed in a genocide. They're going to forever learn it, and they're going to forever see it that way. They're not getting media coverage from Donald Trump or from Netanyahu getting a balanced perspective. They're being deeper and deeper indoctrinated, looking at buildings that are completely collapsed and rubble all over the ground. And they're going to be told for generations that the big bad Jews in the United States of America is the one that hate us and they want to kill us. And so it's really no changing them. But I really hope that Donald Trump does what he says, and let's see how it go. You know, I trust our president. I trust our country.
Well, I've been to Israel three times. I went on the Birthright Israel tour, and when I was 20, I went back for a wedding in 2014, and I went back for another wedding in 2023. Ironically, the day after I interviewed Andrew Tate, flew back to Miami, grabbed my mom, took her back to Israel as my date for, it was her first time in Israel in 30 years. She couldn't believe what Israel was built up to 30 years later. You know, there's the famous book, Startup Nation. It's incredible. It's like if New York meets Miami, meets Dubai. And, you know, there's a famous saying in Israel, there will be peace when the Palestinians love their children more than they hate Israel. And I haven't seen anything happen with that. Gaza could be Dubai, could be Singapore, but instead they're singing poor because they're more focused on GDT, gross domestic terrorism, than GDP. So would we all love to see peace in the Middle East? For sure. Do they want peace in the Middle East? I doubt it. So it's kind of like, last point, there was this kid in school that was an annoying kid, and he talked so much trash, kind of around the time when I got my bike stolen, 13 years old. And, you know, I had to punch him in the face. But he kept talking trash. So I punched him in the face again. And when I would go after him, he'd run around and he'd like hide, like almost like tunnels. And then when I wasn't looking, he would like pour milk on my book bag. He was a complete pest. And he was a complete loser. So my only response was to keep kicking his ass to the point where he finally had to just leave school. because he was so embarrassed and he was such a loser. And do I think about this kid at all? Zero. Does he probably still think of me now that I'm having success? He's like, I used to fight him and get my ass kicked by him in middle school. That's the reality here. Israel is focused on their GDP and wealth and growing and security and saving the world from the real problem, radical Islam, where you have these pests who have been getting their ass kicked for years and still talking shit. So for me, kick some ass, take some names, FAFO.
You know what? I'm calling it right there. That is our program for today. Gentlemen, I thank you. Have a great weekend. It's Friday, guys, so no post-game show. We'll see you on Monday.
God bless America.